Hey, what's up? Maturity. That's what I want to talk about today. I don't think I'm mature enough. I think that's one of the stuff I'm starting to realize as I got older. When I was younger, I had a very contentious approach to the word maturity because it was very often used in the context of me making like too many jokes or doing something that I was just like laughing a lot or whatever. So in my head, like maturity was solely in that realm of how how the means in which you approach the situation, like how humorous you were when you approach the situation, that you probably should have been making jokes or something like that. But then as I get older now, I realize that maturity actually has to do with how you approach like the consistent maturity is more, at least the way I'm defining it now in my life, is more so about the consistency of how you approach situations. And I think the biggest way I think I found this is in how I approach my work and my career. So like for example, work, sometimes I sleep way too late. Like if I sleep at one, sometimes just depending on my mood, I might sleep at 1 a.m., which doesn't make sense because I have to wake up at 7 a.m. because that's the like, time I like going. That's the time I like getting ready to go to work, right? So that's kind of an example. Or like sometimes I will not do something. I will not work on something I scheduled to work on because I just don't feel like it. Because like, if I'm way too full, then I'm probably not going to work on it. Or if it's way too hot, then I'm probably not going to do it. I think that's the issue I'm noticing much more in my life, and it's like that one thing that's kind of holding me back into entering the next level or next frontier of the stuff I'm able to do. Is that consistency and or I guess the maturity of how I approach situations, because I think I have a very childish approach to it, and like I just said, like in how I'm not consistent, I work too much off vibes or moods. It's like if I'm annoyed, if I'm sad or anything like that, that changes my whole day and how I approach my schedule, my work, and all of that. I think I want to become more disciplined in that regard. Um, I still don't. I think it's more so practice, prayer, meditate. I think that's like those last two have been like the biggest ones because I think now, especially in the last couple of months, if there was something that could change my mood completely, or if there's a situation that I was like, oh, it's way too hard, something like that, I very often I take a step back. I actually like leave the situation, like the physical situation I'm in, and try and like reflect on and say, okay, what's the best approach to approach it? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I make the good decision, and sometimes I make the bad decision, which is clear because once I make the bad decision, like an hour or two later after doing like no work and just like scrolling Instagram or eating food, I realized that that was probably the wrong decision. Um, but yeah, so I'm still trying to refine those approaches. But I think it's something interesting. I think it's something that I think it's something if mastered could really help me just like consistent, like if I can apply that, like let's say 40%, probably 30% of like my output right now consistently, I feel like I'll do crazy things in terms of just like the amount of work I'm able to get done, because a lot of the work I do, even though like sometimes people say it's a lot of work I do, it's really not that much work. And a lot of it can be done in like 1 day. Like I remember I was working on for SGB, Strength of Mind Body. I'm helping with the mental health committee event, and one of the stuff we're doing is outreach to different clubs. And then it was like 3 weeks or so, like we are just like it was going slow. I was meant to reach out to some clubs, and they weren't getting back to me. I sent some emails and all that. I just waited, and then one day I was like, okay, let me just lock in on this. And then within an hour, I got all of it done. Right? I think that's something like if I was mature and if I was consistent, I said, okay, I'm going to focus on this task purely for the next 30 minutes. I could get so much work done, and would actually leave me a lot more room to innovate and plan and work on more important things, or dedicate more times to the more difficult aspects of my projects. Like that 10, like there's this idea that like 90% of the stuff you do is actually easy, and then the last 10%, that's where like a lot of the difficulty and friction come in. And very often I get stuck at like I guess in that 90%, I get stuck at like the halfway mark, that like 45% where I'm just like dozing off or like slacking. I think it'll be really awesome if I can just overcome that. um but there's still, I think I have those approaches I mentioned, the prayer, meditation, and all of that, and just breaking tasks. Like I very often now try and like demystify what I do. If there's something that like I'm very the big no, I'm gonna say it's like, oh dad, you should go eat food, or you should or should you continue working on this. In my head, the way I break it down is okay, it regardless of what I do, unless it's like a time sensitive task, right? Then regardless of what I do, it's really just a matter of how long did I take to eat the food? Am I watching a movie or a show while I'm eating the food? And then I demystify and say, okay, if I go eat food and I'm actually like really hungry, that's impeding my work, then I don't waste time and come back, then I should be good. But if I go eat that food, um, and I watch like an Instagram video and continue watching it, I'm gonna spend longer to eat that food. And probably after I eat that food, I'm not gonna be in the mental space to go back to my work in a immediate amount of time, immediately, right? I think by like demystifying like that decision, it allows me to approach it in a more practical manner. It's like, okay, it's not really a question of whether or not I go do A or B. It's a matter of what I do after A or B, right? And these sub decisions that follow that. Um, but yeah, I do like it. I do have a coach now, which is cool. That's something new. It's basically meant to be like a life coach. It's not like to be a meant to be. It's not meant to be like a mentor like the tech research field. It's more so a life coach that can become more, I guess, disciplined and mature. But I do think it's interesting. I do think it's exciting. I do think and I don't have a third one, but I do think it's gonna be awesome to see what comes next. Especially if I can get to that consistency, maturity, discipline. Because once I do that, then that's kind of scary. And just like, oh dang, how many stuff can get done really quickly, really quickly. This is like I'm about to end the video, but this is something I've noticed that's like really annoying me is that I mispronounce my R's. Like I very often use like W for my R's, and it annoys me because like usually when I'm talking I don't do that, but it's only for these videos. That's the weirdest thing ever. But just to end it, I do think I'm excited because it's something I'm realizing more and more. It's more, um, it's not just a matter of how often you laugh or how childish you are, but it's more so in the consistency of your approaches to situations. Because you can be inconsistent in the way you approach life and careers and research and education. You have to be very consistent with that. And I think that's a new internal project I'm working on, and very often I do find success with that. So I'm very excited to see what comes next. But besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.